Hello, spiritual beings. I'm Jeremy of Affinity Transformations, and these are my friends Terry and Claire. We are so excited. We want to share with you a way to miraculous reality, be miracle minded. And I want to stage this a little bit because this is a very different dialogue and it takes a different heart space to work with what we're doing tonight. Out there, you're used to college or classes where you read and everybody has their opinion and they're valued and they're seen as equal, and maybe there's some disagreement and argument, and it can be exciting to participate in that. What we're going to do tonight isn't that. It is not that. What we have here is a book that many people consider a transcription of truth, like truth that doesn't wobble. It's something one could just rest in. And this may or may not click for you, but we're going to try to give you a sense of the value of this book called A Course in Miracles. And just get ready to be given things as if they're facts. And it's about spiritual reality. For some people that are seeking and seeking and seeking, they may be finally ready to just like have all the seeking energy drop and go into, wait a minute, there's something true, and I don't have to hunt. I don't have to crave for God anymore. That somehow I can discover it here in the place I'm standing or sitting. And that's kind of where we're going today, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Well said.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And we're going to try to get a lively discussion here, maybe impromptu. My friend Claire here is very proficient at giving out basically what the Course in Miracles is. And all three of us have our own background in intuitive awakening, connecting to big reality. We have different words for it. We love the Course in Miracles. We love Claire. We want to kind of focus in on those gifts, but still find a way to relate. I invite you to stay the course. Please stay with us. You may totally transform. Let something hit you. Like, get quiet. And it may seem like a threat to hear something laid out like it's a fact. It may feel like that. But pause and just ask yourself, am I finding something true and abiding if I let these words run over me? And the book is full of statements like this. And I know this because when I sit with one sentence, my whole system goes to full stop. I go, and that's based on who I am. That's where I've come to as a seeker. When something is said from that level of truth, I just go stop. And all arguments are gone inside me. So that is different than arguing, in a fun group where we're all, debating. And I really enjoy my capacity to kind of resonate with a sentence like that. It does take time. It does take dedication.
It does.
To, think about people of Europe when they heard that there were people that looked different out east. Marco Polo came back and he said, there are people that they're all the same in some way. They have all black hair. They all have yellowish skin, and it's a totally different culture. Think about the early Europeans going, who is this crazy guy saying statements like this? I have an opinion about this. What an arrogant jerk. And some people went, wait a minute, his words are interesting. And the way he's speaking, it's clear. He's not shifty in his presentation. He's just saying the truth. And I have to tell you, Claire just does that a lot. She just says it. And not everybody gets that.
Oh, thank you. Really? Thank you.
So I've been around this a while, and I don't know if you want to share your experience of Claire and maybe the way you relate to Course in Miracles, Terry.
Well, I met Claire through Psychics Unite, and she's just, when she talks, she always has something incredibly insightful to say. And so she always brings a lot of value to the meetings, and I've just been very impressed with her insight and her background and her experience.
Well, I just
Right.
want to say thank you to both of you. I mean, like, thank you. I don't know what to say. But what I will say, what I will start with this is, I don't know how you can start looking at A Course in Miracles without first just reading the introduction, which is a paragraph. So if we can just do that for right now,
Please do.
I think it'll set the stage. And if you guys want books, I have extra books here too.
Of course she does.
Yeah, I do. I brought them because I didn't know if anybody else,
Soak in your words.
if anybody else wanted to.
Can I grab one?
Sure, I'm gonna give you this one.
All right.
That's my-
And something may pop out as.
Yeah, I'm gonna use this version of it. I like this version of it. I'm gonna show it. This version is a more recent version that Robert Perry from Circle of Atonement put together directly from Helen's original notes. When Helen Schuckman scribed the course, I can't give all the details, but there was a lot of editing that went on for whatever reason. And he went back to the original notes and took everything verbatim. Now, he has a lot of his own commentary in here. I personally stay with the words of Jesus Christ. He is the author of A Course in Miracles, by the way. Helen Schuckman, who took it down, somehow, being Jewish, she still had a personal relationship with Jesus. And I have a Jewish friend who tells me she understands why he came through all the Jews. I don't pretend that I know because I don't have the Jewish background. But so Helen took it down, and it was a voice that she heard. It could stop in mid-sentence, and she could pick it back up again. A lot of the early part of the course was direct instruction to her and Bill Tedford, who I think they had a professional relationship. I don't know what it was exactly. So there are a lot of those notes in here as well. And being a psychologist herself, there's a lot of commentary about psychology in this version of it, which were part of her original notes.
Let me translate this for some people that may not totally get where you're coming from.
Okay.
So this is a book that was transcribed intuitively. A lot of writings are
Oh, it
done
was
this
not,
way.
it wasn't, it,
It
well,
was.
when you say intuitively, it was actually an interdictation that she heard.
Interdictation.
Yeah.
Thank you. So basically, we really know Jesus wrote this book.
Yes.
We don't argue with that here.
Yeah.
That's who we are. Not everybody gets this style or the culture we have, but we're just laying it out there. You may feel resonant with this.
Well, the other thing, when you really look at it, certainly in the United States, I mean, I know we have a lot of cross culture and there, people from various areas, but in general, our demographic is Western. I mean, Christianity is a large part of our culture for sure.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea of Jesus, I think, is steeped in the genetic memory in this country for sure,
Mm-hmm.
and in Europe as well. But that's just kind of a side note. So this is the introduction. It's one whole paragraph. It is the whole course. He says, this is A Course in Miracles. It's a required course. And everybody says, well, it's required. I don't want to take it. Why is it required? I'm going to throw it against the wall. I'm not interested. Doesn't matter. It's required. And why is it required? Because who and what you are, your very true nature, you have nothing to say about. And so how you come to know your true nature will be a required course. So no matter what the form, it's still going to be A Course in Miracles, because the occurrence is always outside of your own cause and effect relationship. In this world, we believe that I do this, this happens. So we all set up a cause. We have our own ideas about who you are and where you came from, what you are, the range of experience, the range of emotion, the range of everything is all based on a body identity.
So if the required course is universal because I get stuck in my suffering and it needs to resolve itself at some point in my spirit.
You can
And that
start,
would be a way of interpreting getting to the lesson that's required. Is that somewhat same?
well, I mean, I would not argue with that.
Mhm.
It's required because being limited is not what you are, period. It matters not how, in what form that takes. But, pain is just a symptom of the limitation, basically. So you are, so I'm going to use the vernacular from A Course in Miracles. You are as God created you. And so is every living thing, regardless of the image you see. And that's a fact. That's a fact of everything and everyone. We have nothing to say about that because truth is true and nothing else is true.
So the statement, I am as God created me, would it be okay to say, I am the pure spirit?
Yeah, if you want to say it that way. Sure.
So it could be interpreted different ways, or a
Well,
way of referencing what it kind of means.
well, the thing about it is, and this is just personally how it is for me, I try to steer clear of interpretation.
Mm.
Because interpretation always brings with it my past ideas. When the experience comes, it's never what you think it is. At least not in my experience. It has never been what I think it's going to be. And so even the idea of any kind of definition is simply not true. So we're talking about, a reality beyond space, time, and form, beyond concepts, beyond all of that. Okay, so A Course in Miracles really is a path of enlightenment. How do I move? How do I move? When I say move, I realize would probably be a better term.
Mhm.
How do I realize that even as I sit here with you, that we are what that is right now?
And I love where you're sitting. And I know that the world's full of signposts for a bigger reality. Like there's
Sure.
statements said, there are attempts to share that there's something in us. There's reality in us that would free you, or it will uplift you, or you will transform. There's these different statement sets. We're trying to give stage for this, right?
Yeah.
But where you're coming from, to me, is languaging for how to really make sure you're not using your mind when you discover reality. You're
Well, you
making
are,
sure.
in some ways, you are, in some ways, and this is the beauty of what I feel the beauty of the workbook is it's a systematic way to train your mind to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world.
Hold on, say it again.
It's a systematic way to train the mind to a different perception of everyone and everything in the world. So we're still talking perception.
Yes. Okay, listen to that. A different perception
Yes.
of everything, everyone.
Yeah.
So we go through the daily life, maybe in the same old, thinking it's Groundhog Day. Perhaps that's the way of framing it. And we are convinced often the change that is that we have to manifest something different out here. Move the level of money from this to this. Income. I'm transformed. I can afford a better car. What you're speaking to is the pigment that life is painted with gets brighter, or everything looks totally different. And it's just this. Something happens here.
Right, it's a different perspective. This is what I've learned from gardening and from picking raspberries.
Mhm.
You're out there and you're picking, but there's a whole bunch of leaves along with the berries. You pick all, and you think you got all the bears there are, until you change your perspective. Maybe you bend down or you go to the side, and all of a sudden you see things that weren't really, that you didn't see before. And so by changing your perspective, you can see what's really there. I also think about those lenticular pictures, where when you stand looking at it one way, you see one picture, but as you move this way, the picture changes to something else. Both of those pictures are always there at any given time. But if you just change your perspective, you can see something totally different.
So perception and perspective, how are they similar and different in terms of where you're going?
Well, the thing about it is the idea of, the idea of perspective, I think is a great idea if we can use it metaphorically, because the perspective is always of yourself and who you think you are. Who you think you are is what you think everything is. If you think that, and so the thing about it is that what is that nursery rhyme? It's a nursery rhyme. Pussycat, pussycat, where have you been? I've been to London to have tea with the Queen. Pussycat, pussycat, what did you do there? I chased the mouse under the chair. See, because the mouse is only going to have the mouse perspective. But here's this idea of having tea with the Queen. But it's a mouse. So if you remain a mouse, and again metaphorically, so it's moving from the consciousness of being little and limited and isolated to a whole other consciousness. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. In my journey, maybe it was early on, I was really focused on being an enhanced individual. I found spiritual energy. I became more capable, more functional, and I made things happen. I became a spiritual, superpower. And then over the years, it's been more important to me. I just shifted. It's become more important to me to just discover spiritual reality. And that is an infinity of some sorts. What you're speaking to me is something like that, where it became more important to discover this timeless, forever quality.
Well said, by the way.
And the individual becoming more potent and powerful may occur, but the emphasis is kind of sort of like, and so there's this infinity, there's this boundless quality potentially with me. And what you're speaking to is, it's just really hard to speak to this in words.
It is.
It's really hard. These statements are sort of like, they're just being put into consciousness, and your ego just goes, it's a threat to your ego.
It is.
Reading these statements is a threat to the ego, and pay attention to how your ego doesn't like it. If you keep reading, ask yourself, you just tell it's struggling. You tell it just doesn't want to buy this. And if you are staying on this video, your spirit is stronger than your ego.
I would agree.
And they often both coexist on the path. They're going to be with each other for a long time. Get used to it. But let your spirit win a lot.
Well, but there does come a point where the battle ends.
That's what this book is about, the end of the battle.
Yeah.
And it's a total, absolute threat to the dancing, clever, wild ego. Like this. Everything I'm doing here is the clever attempts to frame what can't be framed. There. I live to joke in this way. I interrupted.
No, that's fine. No, I mean, you have the gift of gab. I have to. Okay. All right. Okay, but I do want to read this one paragraph, because everything is contained in this. And you're going to say, well, why do you need however many 100 pages if everything is contained in this paragraph? Well, the however many 100 pages is going to address every aspect of it. So it says this is a Course in Miracles. It's a required course. Okay, that's what people like. How can that be? All right. Only the time you take it is voluntary. So what's voluntary is when you want to do it. Why? Because you can't change what you are. You know, you are, okay, I'm going to use these terms. You are as God created you. You have nothing to say about it. Like you're already whole. You're already perfect. You're not lacking anything. All power is given unto you in earth and heaven. There's nothing you cannot do. That's a fact. But in this identity of a human being walking around in space, time, and form, bumping up against all these other objects in objective reality, that seems like an impossible thing. How is that how can I know myself beyond this?
What you're describing is what I call a finite experience. So if you're willing to see through the standard mediocre process that everyone's stuck in, myself included often, we're just bumping around. This didn't work for me, and then we're in effect to it, and we have emotional reactions, and we're lost in hopelessness or despair. That's all personal processes, and you're speaking to that being put down. Somehow we can put that whole thing down or see through it.
That is true, and I would say this. I think in general, and I'm just looking at it in general here, I think every individual, okay, so every individual must come to know there is no world. That's the fact of it, because there is no world. This is an objective reality that's solely manufactured.
It's a simulation.
Yeah, in your own consciousness, you know. The senses are what do they call them, transceivers or whatever? They just interpret.
Right.
They just interpret energy, basically. But so this and all of this is contained within a very isolated and small range of energy. So it's not what you are. So how do you realize that? Well, you
take the blue pill.
You will realize it. That's true. It's like taking the blue pill.
This is blue.
But it's the red pill.
It's the red pill, I think.
Oh, you're supposed to take the red pill?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Sorry, we didn't need to get the
Blue
blue.
pill is go back to believing whatever you want to.
Oh, okay.
So it is a red pill in a particular way.
Okay.
That is true. The Matrix is really a great sort of thing for that. But here's the thing. The course has been around since the 70s. I think about the mid-70s when it first came out. And now I'm just talking, this is just opinion, what I'm expressing now. Since the 70s, I think there has been a huge movement in terms of spiritual realization. I mean, I don't think anybody would argue with that point. One of the things that I have noticed is that the idea that quote unquote spirituality becomes how you commandeer the life that you want based on your old ideas of what you are, which gets marketed very much like that. I don't really have anything to say about that, except for me, that's not what I wanted. It has to be the genuine thing, So if I'm in a limited identity, it wouldn't matter how grand that limited identity is. It's still never going to satisfy me, because it's never going to satisfy you either, for that matter.
Elon Musk.
Yeah. Yeah.
Even if I'm Elon Musk,
it's never going to satisfy you.
It won't be satisfactory.
Because it's not what you are.
I'm not a dream character.
That's right. You're not a character, and you're not a dream character. So he says, only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It only means that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. This course does not aim at teaching the meaning of, and here's the word, love. But that is beyond what can be taught. So think about it. This is just gonna sound like a concept, but you are truly the love of God himself. How can that be? If I'm the love of God, then how can all of these terrible things happen and look out in the world and see everything that goes on? And, you know, you take a good look at the world, it's hard to, you just can't, you can't tolerate the level of pain that you find in the world. And everybody's in the world, everybody's looking to escape pain of the world. You know, that's not my condition, that's the condition of those over there. But it is truly my condition because I'm aware of it. So I would have to say personally, that was one of the realizations I had early on, even long before discovering the course, is that, you know, I felt like I was really in a hopeless situation because, you know, I never really could be at peace as long as I saw any kind of suffering in front of me. It was not tolerable.
That's a very, very common block. I run groups a lot, and as the most common block ever. The world is full of unconscious people. There are mean people everywhere. They're in charge of the system. They're blocking our happiness. They're controlling us. And if you're spiritual, you care about all that. So that's a real common framework. This sounds way different to that.
Well, it's not that you don't care about it. I still care about it, but I know the answer isn't out there. The answer is not addressing it out there.
Mhm.
If anything is addressed out there, it will always come from a knowing of true self.
Mhm.
It would have to be. If I'm going to fight it, I verify it.
And so I find it, I verify it. I think about when someone's stuck in anger, I could go like, yeah, anger, and energize that with them and verify it. You're saying, like, I think this is possible. If I fight against a certain political figure, in energy, that might feed the construct on the planet, right? I'm arguing in my mind.
Well, actually, I'm the problem because I'm fighting with. I'm number one. I'm fighting my own projection.
Right. So you're talking about going right here and realizing that you can step back out of that.
Yeah, there is. You know, the concepts really do fail in that we can think about them and we can talk about them, but the experience of seeing something change before your eyes, like the real miraculous nature of something, is there's no explanation for it here. There is no explanation.
Right. So we're looking at the word miracle here as well, isn't it? So if you really think about what the word miracle is, it whatever presents, it's called a miracle, can't be explained. It just there's no explanation. So if there's something going on that you have no explanation for, there's no other word to use.
We have no explanation yet.
Or no
That's
explanation
right.
yet.
No explanation at this moment or from my personal
Yes.
perspective.
I mean, what's out there as, collective fact is there was a mother who picked a car up off her 4-year-old child. There really was. How did she do that? We cannot explain it.
Mhm.
There's no real explanation. There's some things that are plausible in a way, but really, how does a small framed woman pick up a car?
But that's the beauty of pain, because pain is what motivates us to action. If it were not for her pain, emotional pain of seeing her child in need,
Mhm.
that action, that miracle wouldn't have happened. So pain, I think, we often, say it's such a horrible thing, but it motivates us. And people who cannot feel pain, there are people out there who their nervous systems do not register pain. Those people oftentimes don't live very long because they don't know what they're being hurt. If something is hurting inside, they can't feel it. They don't know to fix because they don't feel pain. And it's the pain that moves us to action. And so if we look at pain in a negative way, like, oh, I hate it, instead of thanking it and loving it for the motivator that it is, we're missing it, I think.
Well, I would agree with that. If for me anyway, I would agree with that entirely. Again, in a total sense, because what motivates you to want to move beyond a limited idea of self is that you really cannot stand the pain of the limitation.
Well, and that's, seems like we could have a transformation of perception about pain. And you're speaking to it right there. That pain is my friend. Thank you.
It's my favorite thing ever.
It's my favorite thing ever. It's motivated me to do so many things. And I felt great relief from pain when I just consciously dismantled my ego. Found ways to do that, like the me energy, like the selfish energy. What about me in my head? I found it and I started taking it apart. And in every way I was able to do that, I went, the pain was gone. And you're speaking to a style that's about taking apart the ego and maybe everything.
Yeah, I think it is. I mean, it is that, I mean, there's one line in here that that stays with me. It says, not that you ask for too much, you ask for far too little. So, it is true that pain is a motivator. Certainly was my motivation. But our nature is beyond just not being in pain. Our nature is really joy and beauty and love and
Thriving.
yeah. And truth, reality, knowing, being known and knowing. I mean, these are just words to describe it, but it's beyond description. It's what you are, it's just the realization of what you are, your very true nature. But in the idea of self and the egoic self, or the limited idea of myself, I'm bringing with me, and this is true of all of us, we bring a whole host of memories of pain. Well, how, then that defines us. But what if none of that is really true? What if it is just as simple as, I can drop the baggage? What if it's really that simple?
Well, I've used a certain term for that process. Like everything of content of this mind, in every way it qualifies, compares contrasts, colors, files, all of that it does, I can have complete dispassion for it. Non-passion. I think you're saying that.
Well, actually, what is the phrase that you use, both and?
It's a both and.
You can have complete passion, but how about passion for the truth? Like, the thing about it is look at anything, we're seeing it as a solid form. But
I would say yes, because passion for the truth, to me, is absolutely dispassion for the content of the ego and its energies. It's dispassion, it's non-interest.
yeah,
What's really interesting is that the word passion originally meant suffering. That's why
the passion of the Christ.
Oh.
Passion meant suffering. And so, but now we use it. If you're passionate about something, it's almost like you're suffering toward it.
I would like to offer a rethink about the word passion. I just saw I listened to a great presentation from the woman that wrote Eat, Pray, Love.
Oh, yeah.
And she traveled the world, made tons of money sharing how she realized the book, her passion, and how tenacious she was with this passion of writing. And she traveled the world to share that and got money for it because everybody wanted to know how they too can find their passion and manifest it. And this presentation she gave was an apology of teaching passion and how many people it hurt and how imbalanced she was and how many things how much she divorced herself from her humanity to succeed, and how few people find the kind of like success she did. And it's just ridiculous to think everybody should find that style and that level of success too. And she amended it and she decided to give us the word curiosity.
But here's the thing is that passion that, as I heard you talk,
Yeah,
Melissa Gilbert is her name, right?
right.
Elizabeth.
Elizabeth Gilbert, okay.
Yeah, Elizabeth. Passion for a limited goal. How about if you had passion for an unlimited goal?
Yeah, I think choosing words can be,
Language does fail.
it does fail. I mean, devotion works for me, but if you use passion, I'm not
Yeah, no,
gonna block you.
however, again, it's really a matter of what, in a particular way, what do you want? Like, what do you really want?
Do you really want freedom?
You want freedom.
If you really want freedom, you're still on this, you're still watching.
Yeah,
And I think going back to passion, I think passion is really enthusiasm
yeah.
towards something, or motivation or enthusiasm toward, a goal. But I think that I kind of did my own little write up on what passion was about. And when somebody's passionate about something, people want to feel that. People want to feel passionate. And a lot of people don't, because there's something about having a enthusiasm or an excitement for something that draws people in. Political figures, right? It's not the one who has the best ideas. It's the one that's the most passionate that draws people in. It's when somebody is very passionate, people are like, I want to feel that way. And so they go to that person, and people lead with passion and enthusiasm. And that's what sucks people in, because people want that.
I really get the word enthusiasm.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I think enthusiasm is.
But the thing about it, and this is, again, I'm only just drawing it back to how, because in a limited idea of yourself, you're always going to have a limited goal. So your passion or your enthusiasm will be directed to that limited goal.
My passion to have a hot red sports car. I had a personal desire to have a pinball girlfriend. And that's who I really am.
But it's really interesting. Today I watched
I'm sorry, I'm awful.
I'm sidetracking here. Today I watched a YouTube video, and it was about the soul, and it was about the writing and how the writers created the need and the want in the character. The character wanted to be a jazz musician and perform with this, in this band.
Mhm.
And then he gets done at the end of the night, and he says, okay, well, now what? Now what do we do? And the singer, she says, well, we just go home and we come back tomorrow and we do it again. And he was thinking, well, this is what I spent my whole life wanting. But then in the movie, he realizes what he needs.
Mhm.
And what he needs is not necessarily what he wants. And this finding that what he needs is relationship, is connection, is finding beauty in the world, and just these really, really simple things that were there the whole time. Dorothy, you could have clicked your heels together, but totally missing it because he was so focused on the want.
So if you're watching this, your spirit may be showing you need truth. You need spiritual truth. You need unwobbly,
Ultimately,
transformative truth.
ultimately, ultimately, it's only a matter of time. Everybody will come to know who they are. It's just a matter of time. When that,
It's inevitable.
it is inevitable. It is inevitable.
Imminent.
It is imminent. So, I think part of the being imminent is you become aware that, that's the direction you want to go in, so.
Well, it's a calling towards freedom and you have to be ready. I mean, like, my ego wanted to do a lot of things in life, but then they didn't work, like, didn't make me happy. So I just became ready somehow.
It's really kind of how it is.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's true. So the question really is, I mean, we're having, like, can you help somebody get ready? I think everybody's on their own,
Mhm.
in their own time.
Can you help someone get ready?
Yeah, I don't know. I really don't know. But what I do know is this. What I do know is that, uh, every time you have an individual realization of a broader sense of self, let's leave it general like that,
Mhm.
broader sense of knowing yourself beyond your limitations, that makes it more available to everyone. I do know that. And it doesn't work how we think it works. It doesn't work with me telling somebody about it. I mean, I could be telling somebody about it, it's not excluded,
Mm.
but your beingness is really what teaches. It always teaches.
Well, I really resonate with that statement. Well, and just, another way of saying it is, if I go to my freedom space, somehow others find it too. And I don't have to, like, make you want it. And I shouldn't even be doing that, or out there trying to make people change. It's just a false way to think. It just doesn't have abiding truth in it. It doesn't really work. I found what really works is if I can keep refocusing, go to freedom space. And I really trust that one person in a beautiful state of freedom can offset the negativity in a whole neighborhood or in a whole city. And it's rare. Um, if you're watching this, you're watching a room full of 3 people.
A room full.
A room full of 3 people. I do this all the time. I succeed at this all the time. And let's emphasize full. This room is full. The energy is fantastic. It's totally full.
Yeah, so the only thing I would say is that, the end is certain, for sure.
Thank goodness.
Yeah.
Well, it's that of physical life, it's that knowing that we only have so much time left is such a motivator.
Mhm.
That and I'm 54, and I am getting to the realization that I have a lot of stuff that I'm never going to get to use. I don't have enough time to do all the things that I want to do. So now I'm thinking, what's the most important? And, paring this down to what do I really need to, and I was actually spending that time today. It's my first day off at home for a while. And I just sat down and said, what is my life really supposed to be focused toward? What is the ultimate thing? And one of them was just discover truth. And that was one of the ultimate goals. And so then paring all of this other stuff down, it might be fun and a nice distraction on the side, but it's not ultimately taking me to the goal that I need to be at. And that's what I need to be focusing on. My time is limited. Even if I live to be 105, that's still limited. And I need to get moving. You need to get moving.
Waste no time.
You don't have.
Listen to her.
Yeah. Well,
Talk.
yeah.
There's no time for,
Well, what I've been working with
Wasted.
is something came to me the other day. That there's this joy space in us. And pay attention. Like I find it once in a while, maybe every day in some way. And it says, waste no time to be this. Like, make it a priority, be the joy space. And this reality has freedom in it and other qualities that I sense. And maybe it's even bigger than these various qualities in many ways, or in one big way. It's great reality is hard to talk about.
The thing is the one thing that I know and I sense very strongly is whatever experiences have opened up is always just the beginning. There's always so much more.
Mm.
There has to be so much more. And when I say more, not in terms of quantity, but more in the sense of expansion and depth of awareness and, realization. And the words really do fail. There's a richness that can only expand, you know?
Well, I hear humility in that, where there's what I've discovered, and it's magnificent, and it's uplifting, and it's um, yeah, I'm in a transformed space, and I am not going to prejudge that this is the end.
It can't be the end.
Yes, and that's so the ego prejudging that I figured it out and this is the end, this is the destination. That's the ego giving you like a false prize. I understand it now. I understand it all now. That's pride.
Yeah, like my mother-in-law said to me, well, aren't you gonna go back to college and finish your education? And I said, finish my education? Like, then I'd have to change my name to God. Who finishes their education?
Right,
Does it
right,
happen?
right.
And because I think that every time we get another puzzle piece or we get one answer, that just opens up to 10 more questions.
Mhm.
And each one of those answers opens up. And so that's the beauty of it, is that we can't ultimately in this incarnation get to the end, which always gives us more journey,
Well,
which makes it more exciting.
you're intellectually curious. I have a friend that's intellectually curious, and he's like taught himself all kinds of stuff. And he also, with the help of someone from MIT, created a 10,000 lines of software. And then he had to explain it to the scientific world in Moscow and in Europe. And he had to like present from the kind of like, and he couldn't think like that if he was in the canon of higher education doing computer science. He took what he did to the professor of computer science at the university, and he said, no one here will get that. That's fifth degree wizard shit. Like, don't underestimate someone curious, like outside of common structure.
Yeah,
And
thinking
just
outside the box. Yeah.
being stay, they're outside the box already. They just keep going.
Yeah,
Don't underestimate that person.
no.
And we're talking about that's sort of like genius and contributions. Like there's miraculous in that, isn't there? And that's very possible from as a result of discovering bigger reality. Isn't that true? But we're kind of also talking about a spiritual genius of some sort, like getting that these statements have will take you to a whole new territory of perception.
But when you really, I mean, like, okay, so this is how things play out with me is that, when I look around the world, we have people starving, we have this, we have that,
Mhm.
you like that's the consciousness of humanity right now. I mean, is it true that on an individual basis, some are going beyond it for sure, but there there is an occurrence that is dare I say universal or certainly all inclusive, where these ideas become archaic,
Mm.
like the idea that your brother would suffer for any reason because he's deprived of his basic necessities is ridiculous.
Mhm.
But I mean, when we look, and because I cannot subtract myself from my environment.
Mhm.
So when I look out, it's not like I dwell on it, but when I look out, I have to also realize that this is the state of of human consciousness,
Mhm.
and this is really this is our journey.
Mhm. And I personally, this is kind of like a thing I love sharing a lot as a guy who goes public with rooms full of 3 people.
unlimited rooms beyond. Through there, there's
It just
unlimited.
goes on and on. I've been doing this for 35 years. I'm serious now. What was I was getting to something.
Well, I was talking about how we cannot subtract ourselves from the state of
Okay.
the world.
Yeah, this is my thing. I can have a very direct, I can have very direct contact with another suffering. I can really get it. In some ways, I can't totally walk in a person's shoes, but humanity suffers deeply. And if you're not able to have contact with your connection to that, you're dead. You're not human. You're not in your humanity. And I let myself have that. And I know that's part one of my job. Part two is to see through it and be the uplifted way,
Exactly.
so that the gift can be given of freedom. It's more possible if I'm dedicated in that way, with kind of like the first part and the second part, kind of dancing consistently. And that has to do with my personal humanity and its challenges. It's connected to everyone's challenges. You know, humanity's going through a lot. And I personally have my own thing, but to do it that head on as the first part of the process, and to contextualize it as the suffering of all humans, and then to see through it into this greater reality, freedom space, or the reality that it is in books like A Course in Miracles. I'm really giving in a profound way. I'm really giving the most magnificent way I can.
It's true.
And I think the suffering of humanity is in direct proportion to the false beliefs that humanity holds.
Absolutely.
Mhm.
And so the more false beliefs that we have, the more we suffer.
Mhm.
And it doesn't necessarily mean that the person who is suffering is the one who holds the false belief. It could be the false belief here that creates suffering for the others. And so that is why something that brings us closer to truth. That's why, for me, the ultimate goal is to get as close to truth as possible, because the closer you are to that, the less you suffer, or the less suffering you cause to others,
Mhm.
because you're living in alignment.
Mhm. Well, it's functionally true for your community too. You're creating a resolution by focusing on integrity. Whatever problems come up, the solution starts with the attitude, or the ability to shift lower perception, or personalized perceptions into, some people just go from sense of problem to challenge, then from challenge to being able to see it in a truly bird's eye view, or see it from the great reality of the self, which sees through everything quite naturally.
Yeah. But I also think it's a contagion too. So the more that you do it, the more that you do it, the more that I do it, the more everybody does it. And then all of a sudden, different.
It is different. So we have not gone through the first paragraph of A Course in Miracles
Well,
in this
Correct
time
now.
we had so far. This is how we do it here,
okay.
because I'm in the room.
Well, I will read it through, but I'm going to start from the beginning because it's only one paragraph.
Okay.
Here's good.
This is A Course in Miracles. It is a required course. Only the time you take it is voluntary. Free will does not mean that you can establish the curriculum. It only means that you can elect what you want to take at a given time. This course does not aim at teaching the meaning of love, for that is beyond what can be taught. It does aim, however, at removing the blocks to the awareness of love's presence, which is your natural inheritance. The opposite of love is fear, but what is all-encompassing can have no opposite. This course can therefore be summed up very simply in this way. Nothing real can be threatened, and nothing unreal exists. Herein lies the peace of God. This is interesting because, when we were talking about doing this, I looked at, because, the course can be daunting for people, because it's a big book.
It's a thick book, yeah. And it's got,
And it's got the
lot of
workbook,
small
which is a
words.
lesson a day, but I have to say, doing the lesson a day, it's, doing the lesson every day is something that I have not done as regularly but for years I did it every single day. And I have to say, every year I come around and there would be a whole different experience. So if you're that type of person, I recommend it. Even if you're not that type of person, I still recommend it because I think the workbook is incredible. But there was one other section, if we can just stay with the course, that I really like to go to, and that has more to do. This is the manual for teachers. Okay, so the thing about it is, it's interesting because when I ran into my teacher, he called everybody teacher. Everybody was a teacher. We're all teachers. We're teachers of God, basically.
Mhm.
That's how Jesus uses it in the course. So, so in the manual for teachers, which is every single one of us, because remember, it's a required course. Only the time we take it is voluntary. Whether it's in this form or another form, it's still going to be true.
Mhm.
Yeah, and also I'm also gonna reference, he does say somewhere in the manual for teachers that this is a special form of the universal curriculum. So, it is a universal curriculum because everyone must come to know their true nature. It's just impossible not to.
It's the great default.
Yeah. But I want to just, it's one page that I want to just read because I think it sets up the how it works sort of thing. Okay, so the role of teaching and learning is actually reversed in the thinking of the world. So what does that mean? Reversal is characteristic. It seems if the teacher and the learner are separated, the teacher giving something to the learner rather than to himself. Interesting perspective. So you think like, okay, but the fact of the matter is we can only teach ourselves because to teach is to demonstrate. Does that make sense? You've been at it for a long time.
They say if you really want to learn how to do something, teach it.
Exactly.
Right.
Okay. Further, the act of teaching is regarded as a special activity in which one engages only a relatively small proportion of one's time. The course, on the other hand, emphasizes that to teach is to learn, so that teacher and learner are the same. It also emphasizes that teaching is a constant process. It goes on in every moment of the day and continues into sleeping thoughts as well. To teach is to demonstrate. There are only two thought systems, and you demonstrate that you believe one or the other is true all the time. From your demonstration, others learn, and so do you. The question is not whether you will teach, for in that there is no choice. The purpose of the course might be said to provide you with the means of choosing what you want to teach on the basis of what you want to learn. You cannot give to someone else, but only to yourself, and you do this through teaching. Teaching is but a call to witnesses to attest to what you believe. It is a method of conversion. It is not done by words alone. Any situation must be to you a chance to teach others what you are and what they are to you. No more than that, but also never less. The curriculum you set up is therefore determined exclusively by what you think you are and what you believe the relationship of others is to you. In a formal teaching situation, these questions may be totally unrelated to what you think you are teaching. It is impossible not to use the content of any situation on behalf of what you really teach and therefore learn. And you talked about this earlier about, guys who have come to some sort of realization and they're going to go conquer the world, right?
Right. Mhm.
So they are really demonstrating something, in that idea.
Mhm. Mhm.
They're demonstrating that they're separate, basically.
Mhm.
So I'll just do the rest of this. It's not that much longer. For the verbal content of your teaching is quite irrelevant. It may coincide with it or it may not. It is the teaching underlying what you say that teaches you. Teaching but reinforces what you believe about yourself. Its fundamental purpose is to diminish self-doubt. This does not mean that the self you are trying to protect is real, but it does mean that the self you think is real is what you teach. This is inevitable, and there's no escape from it. How could it be otherwise? Everyone who follows the world's curriculum, and everyone here does follow it until he changes his mind, teaches solely to convince himself that he is what he is not. Herein is the purpose of the world. What else, then, would its curriculum be? Into this hopeless and closed learning situation, which teaches nothing but despair and death, God sends his teachers. And as they teach his lessons of joy and hope, their learning finally becomes complete. Except for God's teacher, there would be no hope of salvation, for the world of sin would be forever real. The self-deceiving must deceive, for they teach deception, and what else is hell? Okay, this fits all of us. This is a manual for the teachers of God. They are not perfect, or they would not be here. Yet it is their mission to become perfect here, so they teach perfection over and over in many, many ways until they have learned it. And then they are seen no more, although their thoughts remain a source of strength and truth forever. Who are they? How are they chosen? What do they do? How can they work out their own salvation and the salvation of the world? This manual attempts to answer these questions. It's the thing with the course is it's you can't do it lightly. It's there. It's a whole thought system for sure.
Well, it's you gotta ask yourself, are you ready to live the truth now? To embody it. And you keep asking that, you may go to the next level of commitment, but you can't just be half-hearted.
That is true.
Now, half-heartedness now is no results.
All or nothing.
Yeah. Well, a very common illustration, when I was in martial arts, there was a woman getting her black belt, and she decided she was going to put her fist through a brick. And she made some attempts before really getting it. And she attempted this demonstration knowing she could, but she just needed the martial arts instructor to just walk her through the technique. One of the techniques, along with making sure your body has a certain function, you use a certain structure of movement, but it's to really just see through it. Make sure you're not looking at the brick, you're looking through it. And what we're talking about is looking through a given condition. It's maybe here's the brick, it's hard. You know it has density. I look inside my body mind and I know there's density. And I can just sit there and let's be honest. But the technique or the gift in sitting with the teaching is you're getting a sense that there's a through.
Mm-hmm.
And if you're not willing to first see through and then move past it, it's just intellectual food.
Yeah,
It's just a bait stuff.
I would agree. I would agree entirely. And honestly, and I'm absolutely partial, but what I really love about the workbook is you don't have to think about it. It tells you exactly what to do that day. Exactly how to apply your mind.
So I give an example. You sit with a lesson in a day and it tells you exactly what to do with your mind. What do you do with the day? What is the teaching? A teaching in one day, for instance. You'd say,
Okay, well, it starts out very, he says it's quite deliberate, but the
Right.
first day, you only have to spend 2 minutes, one in the morning, one in the evening. Nothing I see means anything. That camera doesn't mean anything. That gong doesn't mean anything. That picture doesn't mean anything. Those lights don't mean anything. So, you do the exercise for a minute, you apply it to things you see around you.
So that statement isn't, using that statement as an exercise. You can't know it's fruit. It means nothing until you use it.
Right.
When I first heard it, I went, oh man, that's amazing. I popped. But I think that's just because must have done something like it a lot. But using a phrase with some sense of faith, like sensing this is useful, it's gonna take you to freedom.
Well,
That this doesn't, my thoughts about this mean nothing.
yeah,
Wow.
I mean,
Yeah.
there's an application of an exercise every single day, and it
Mhm.
really does train, it does work. It works you. You
Right.
don't, you work the program, it works you.
Mhm.
It's kind of like the 12-step program in that
Right,
way.
right.
Um,
It works if you work it because you're worth it.
yeah, yeah, it's true.
It
Work it,
sucks if you
baby, work
don't.
it.
It sucks if you don't.
I remember, this is just a personal thing. I just remember encountering the 30th lesson number 38. This is the 38th day. This is just a month into it. And the lesson is, there's nothing my holiness cannot do. Then he says, there's nothing your holiness cannot do in connection with yourself or anyone else. Okay, he doesn't say what the outcome is supposed to be.
Mhm.
He said, there's nothing your holiness cannot do. And so you apply the exercise,
Mhm.
but like it's not direct. You apply the exercise, but you don't get to identify the outcome that you want.
Right.
You see, because it really is. It really acknowledges what is true about you right now, what is true in you right now, that is fully operative whether you're aware of it or not.
Well, that for me, I realized how important it was to let the outcomes be what they are. And the miraculous, to me, half the teaching of the miraculous is being willing to see what's presenting with new eyes. Because then, if I really have that, then this rug and that gong and that chair are all miraculous. They're part of this, and it's all of the miraculous, all equally of God. So then finding $5 on the street is miraculous. It's absolutely totally miraculous. Or being transformed through a court process and going to a place of knowing and confidence and strength and putting this thing in its place.
And not worrying about the outcome.
And not worrying with the outcome, the victory of attitude and wisdom. It's just miraculous. It's miraculous to have the opportunity. And I think people come at the teaching of miraculous at the beginning of their path. And I did this for longer than any of you will ever do it.
They want the outcome that they want.
They were looking for that specific outcome.
Yeah.
I'm going to be able to take the whole universe and shape it exactly the way I want it.
And that's the problem, is that because most times our expectations are so limited as what's actually possible.
Mhm.
And so by going for the outcome, we can totally be short selling ourselves to what we could have had, instead of just kind of that saying, what else is possible? How does it get better than this? And show me, kind of my thing with my guides, show me what you got. What can you do here? What is it that I don't see that you have that you want to give to me? Let's play with this. And let's see what we can do. And let go of the expectation. Like a lot of times in sales processes, they'll say, let go of the outcome. You don't need the sale. Once you get needy, you start to compromise yourself because you feel like, I gotta do this because I gotta have this. No, you don't. Once you're not needy, then you can start to negotiate. Then you can start really asking for what you really want and what the situation, and that unfolds the situation for you to move past what you thought you wanted, something even better, something not just better for you, but for everybody else involved. So just let go of the outcome, just be consistent, and see where it takes you. Because no matter where you end up, you'll be fine.
Even Tony Robbins agrees with you.
I'm sure he does.
One of the last
He consults
infomercials
with me all the
I
time.
saw almost put me to tears. It's funny, somebody so like business oriented could put someone to tears or be in tears, but he was talking about business mastery is about serving people. It's not about, accomplishment. It's about giving to others, forgetting about all outcomes. It's wanting to be there for them. I'm like, hey, he's saying the truth.
I think a lot of times people they do something because they think it's going to give them power. But I think what they don't realize is the higher up you are, the more of a servant you become. Because now you have all of these other people that you have to serve.
Responsibility
Some people-
increases.
Some people don't
Yes.
take that responsibility
right.
to serve the people and they
Yeah.
just seek the power. But in reality, if you want to be a servant,
Mhm.
that's the best way to move up.
Well, the responsibility is so great. If you don't have a noble attitude about it in terms of taking care of more and more people with more and more sense of responsibility, it'll crush you. You don't have the noble at heart. You will be destroyed by your success.
Because it's something you think you want, and then you get there and you're like, well, this isn't fulfilling me at all.
It is true,
Mhm.
because it's not about personal power, it's about, it is power, but it's power to serve.
Well, a lot of people that find themselves in this style of community did all the proper stuff to succeed, and it felt empty. I run into that plenty, and then they maybe take a year off and check in with something inside, and reshape their lives. That is called the afternoon of your life. I think I'm quoting Dr. Wayne Dyer. I got so many teachers in my head. Ah! Do I need a bibliography? I don't know. But to go through, be willing to go through the shift. And this is a way the shift can happen for people. Of course, miracles. We're doing this once a month on the first Tuesday.
Okay.
Check in with the website. There may be anomalies. Like I'll break it once in a while. Check in with the website.
Yeah.
Claire has exquisite knowledge or intimate context for what it takes. Go to this unwobbly reality, unwobbly greatness.
Well, but what I really love, I mean, personally, what I really love about it is that it's there, it's all given.
Mhm.
It's just a matter of using it.
It's just, you can lead a horse to the water.
Yeah.
And we're setting up the possibility of people to drink from it.
Yeah.
And we're just dedicated.
So are we setting up an expectation of what people should do? Or like, is there, for somebody who's watching this,
Mhm.
they're like, okay, so now what do I do?
Now what do you do?
Why now?
Well, now what you would do, I mean, I would pick up a book and start with the workbook.
Probably sitting in the library.
Yeah.
It's a very common book.
Well, you'd always want your own book, but yes, of course.
Probably you can find it on a used book website
Yeah.
for
So the
$2.
Course in Miracles is the workbook? Or is
It's
there?
in, well,
there's a
usually, there's
workbook
3
that comes
volumes
with
in here.
that?
It's the text, it's the workbook, and the manual for teachers.
Okay.
It's all contained in one volume. I mean, there's different publications of it. That was the Foundation's publication. This was The Advent of a Great Awakening. These are my people. We did our version of it. And then this is a version that came out more recently. Robert Perry, he took Helen's original notes without editing it out. That is pretty edited and rearranged a little bit, especially in the early chapters. Now, Robert Perry makes a lot of commentary. I personally would just stick with the words of Jesus, but it's pretty evident which are his words. And
I recommend doing that with the Bible too. Just stick with the words of Jesus.
yeah,
That's my thing.
I mean, all the footnotes and everything are there, but sometimes I think it's just easier to stay with the original material.
Mhm.
Personally, I mean, I don't
Right.
want to slight anybody what they do, but it's like the message really does speak for itself.
Okay. Well, excellent. Thank you so much, Claire, for
Thank you.
focusing us.
Thank you.
And focusing me, you can tell I just need refocusing all day. We read less than 2 pages in this long presentation.
Yeah, I'm very impressed with both of you. Thank
Oh,
you.
bless you.
Thanks.
Thanks, Terry. Terry is a gifted presenter and leader in the Psychics Unite territory.
Yeah.
She has a great group on Monday nights. Every Monday, you do something in Madison
Every
here.
Monday,
At Unity
either
Church
east side or
or
west
on
side.
the west side
East side,
at
west side.
Cosmic Delights.
Mhm.
All these people, these leaders are my family. We've been around a while.
And don't be fooled by the title, because even though they talk about psychic, they just talk
We
about all
go
of
this,
it.
we go all over the
everywhere.
place.
Yeah,
We
this might
basically-
come up at
Yeah,
Psychics
yeah, well,
Unite.
especially if people are following this and
Right.
doing this, then
Right.
some of those people will come and will say,
Yes,
did you?
yes.
Well, I read this, what did you think? You know, there's a good.
There's a few
dialogue.
guys that really have done that. Yeah.
Mhm.
And check my website and my meetups group, because there's also other supplementary things that are related to this. I was able to handle the Course in Miracles truth because I've done a lot with
Mhm.
big reality in shifting the ego into freedom.
And
So-
I'm gonna promote the Rama channelings too,
All right.
because being that this is basically a channeled work.
It is, yeah.
That the Rama channeling is kind of in that same vein and.
I'll get my channel book so you can see the cover.
Mhm.
People out there in internet land. 1 Degree South of God is a channeled book as well. And we have some free recent transmissions on my website. Look for the discourses there. Thank you, everyone. Bless you. Bye. All right. I thought that was fun. It's a lot of informal.
It was very informal.